Theodora Scarato, and I'm going to talk about the unique vulnerability of children, the ever-increasing combined exposures to the public, and the reason this study is so important in that it exposed all tissues to radiofrequency radiation. The carefully controlled exposures used in the National Toxicology Program study make it unlike any other, and I've understood the design was intended to test the assumption that non-thermal levels of radiofrequency were safe. This decades-old assumption is the basis for our U.S. federal guidelines on cell phones and wireless exposures. We know that children are exquisitely vulnerable to radiofrequency. They have thinner skulls, smaller heads, a shorter distance from the skull to brain centers, smaller ears, so if they put the phone up to their ear, it's going to be a shorter distance to their brain, and different dielectric properties, higher liquid content on their brain, and their brains and organs are less myelinated and still developing. In this video that was running earlier, it was showing some easily findable videos from the internet about children using wireless devices. And here's a virtual assistant which a child is cuddling, and she's actually singing a song to it.
In the sky, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
The average radiofrequency energy disposition for children exposed to mobile phone radiation is twice as high in the brain comparatively, and 10 times higher in the bone marrow of the skull compared with mobile phone use by adults. There was a question about research looking at children's exposure. Published research modeling children's exposure confirms that children's heads and brains are proportionally more exposed compared to an adult, and this is some modeling that shows the higher intensities penetrating deeper into their brains. But you can see the darker colors representing the higher intensity SARS, peak SARS, and the lighter colors, there's a 34-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old. Oh, I see. This is what happened. Okay. And what I wanted to talk about was that the way people are using phones and devices is unlike we could have imagined, I think, a decade ago. I was just out and I saw this, so I put this up here. I pulled the picture from the internet, but a woman was walking. She was talking on her cell phone with her baby in this position, and she was kissing her baby. And the bottom 1/3 of the phone was touching the baby's head, and she was taking a stroll, as I was taking a stroll, actually in a forest in Virginia, where the signal was quite low, which means the power was likely quite high coming out of the phone. I'm not sure she was aware that she was exposing her baby to radiation. It was touching the baby's skull that is being studied here in our top research laboratory. When we consider current exposures to radiofrequency, people's exposures is no longer just from a cell phone. It's additive because people are using multiple devices at one time. And as an example of many studies, this study showed modeling of the SAR from the cell phone to the head, in addition to the exposure, the SAR from a wireless laptop. And they found an up to 20% SAR increase with the combined exposures. So the first image is just the cell phone to the head, the second was just the Wi-Fi laptop, and the third image was the SAR increased by 20%. During his presentation, Dr. Kapsik talked about how much they needed to develop special water systems to avoid overexposure to the animals, because if they use metal straws, they might be overexposed. And also with people, metal near the body, as well as inside the body, will increase and alter SAR in ways we do not expect, in unexpected ways. Published research has found local SAR enhancement from eyeglasses with metal frames, metal jewelry, piercings, storing phones next to metal objects like keychains. Metal implants can also enhance the SAR in the tissue close to the metal implant, skull plates, metal in your jaw, like someone I know recently who got metal in their jaw, hip replacements. Also, there's the issue of metal outside your body in close vicinity, such as when you're in a vehicle. There's a study that'll be on my list at the end with all my studies that are part of this, that it leads to reflections and wave changes inside the vehicle. There was a study that found that even passengers without cell phones had increased SAR exposures because of the nearby passenger with a phone. And now I do have a teenager, and there are many children in a vehicle with many operating devices on at once, more than one per child sometimes. So all of these issues are critically important, and they're not addressed by our current FCC limits. This is modeling with dosimetry done to simulate the exposure of virtual reality, now brought into schools nationwide and across the world, actually. Children are given cardboard with cell phones inside. They hold it up to their eyes. I certainly have seen children with glasses, which would be metal-framed glasses, holding these up. It's a smartphone inside of the cardboard. And this is modeling done to show the SAR into the eyes and brain of a 6-year-old child. What are the effects on the eyes from these devices? The public is unaware of the fact that their phones or their wireless devices emit radiation, much less that there are actually health concerns from these exposures. The use of wireless devices and exposures are only increasing. Both our near field and far field exposures. And if you take a look, this was an image recently sent to me of a person who has this small cell right in front of their home, this is their balcony. And then the second image is modeling of peak exposures from a Wi-Fi laptop. Laptops have fine print warnings on them stating that, and most laptops are at 20 centimeters, that's about 8 inches, that they are not supposed to be on the body in order not to exceed FCC limits. And yet college students have these devices on their laps all the time. So those are my comments about combined exposures, children's exposures, and how important it is that this study looked at exposure to all the tissues, all the organs of the bodies of the animals. Thank you very much.
Thank you.